Hey, I know this is definitely not the normal time for this, and this is going to be very, very short. Just something that was on my heart and my mind, and I thought it would be worth talking to y'all about. Um, so I was talking to my wife last night, and she's had this image in her mind for a while about the election, Trump, all of these things. Obviously, the mainstream news isn't talking about the irregularities and the obvious fraud, but I think it's going to come out. But the bigger issue is the question of the prophets, right? People have been asking, did the prophets get wrong? Are these all false prophets? Here's the thing. I am going to state publicly that I'm standing with the prophets. Every single one came out and said that he was going to win. All of them. And I don't think it's a coincidence. I don't think that they're all false prophets. Don't get me wrong. There are definitely false prophets out there. But I don't think that that's what these are. I think there are too many good ones to mention. But I think Trump is going to win. But the reason I wanted to talk about to come on air and state that publicly is something my wife and I were talking about for the last 3 weeks. She's had this sort of image in her head of Moses, and when they were facing the Amalekites, and how, as long as he kept his arms raised, they would win. And that's been in her head for the last 3 weeks, and she's been seeing it over and over again. And so we were talking about it, and she was also connecting it to Jacob when they were at war and God stopped the sun. Many other prophets have connected this time to Moses and the Red Sea, that they all thought they were going to die. It wasn't until it was just last second that God intervenes and they're saved. And I can't help but think, and she was talking about how she couldn't remember if it was one or the other. And for me though, it was which battle or what. In my mind though, I think the Spirit was speaking to me in this one. That's the point. She was connecting things the Spirit was showing her, that we're entering this time, and we're supposed to take a message from this. Right now, we need to be supporting Donald Trump, his arms, through prayer, contributions. We need, if you live in one of these battleground states where things are being contested, if you need to actively, uh, in fact, forget that. Regardless of where you are, write to your congressman, to your senator, to your state legislatures. We need them to know that we want a full examination of these things. Period. End of story. If you live there, if you live in Pennsylvania, Georgia, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, if you live in these locations, you need to write to your congressmen, your senators. They need to know that this needs to be a full investigation. We need to know these things because let's be honest. If you want real unrest in this country, imagine for a second that we can't trust the elections. That's going to get ugly. If this goes on and there's no proper investigation done, we can't see where the failures are, and this is allowed to stand, there's not going to be peace in this country, flat out. There just can't. People won't stand for it. What we need to do is we need to advocate, but we need to be keeping our president in prayer. We have to uphold his arms. This is going to take a while. I don't think it's going to be resolved next week. I think it's going to be resolved I don't think it's going to be resolved in January. Hank Goodman talked about a 70-day window for this. That takes us into the second week of January. Because if you go from election day, which is November 3rd, you go out 70 days, it's like the second week of January. This is not something that's going to be resolved quickly. We have to be in this for the long haul. The vision of Moses, having to have his hands propped up. The point is, we have to endure. Revelation: those who endure to the end will be saved. It's about endurance. So much of the mistakes of our nation have been a lack of endurance. We just wanted things to be like Star Wars. You blow up the Death Star, you go home happy. It's not how the world works. You gotta endure. You gotta stay in through the fight. You have to persevere. That's where we're at. Saints, we have to persevere. We have to hold up his arms in prayer and in donations. And then moving forward, we got to take up this fight. We have to stop sending people to Washington or into our state legislatures and state houses and believing it's going to be okay. We can't. We have to be in this fight. If you want a nation that's prosperous, you want a nation that is free. If you want to be able to worship openly, we got to fight for it. We can't just abdicate our our roles and our responsibility in this. We have to be advocates every day for this nation, not because as Christians that we are connected to it per se, but because that's our role. We are supposed to be the arbiters of truth in this nation. We're supposed to hold the nation accountable for when it goes right, when it goes wrong, regardless of party. If you're worried about the Republicans or the Democrats winning, you're worrying about the wrong thing. We need to stand up and make certain the right wins. Right meaning correct. That which is beneficial, that which is good, moral, healthy, and that which benefits everyone. Don't you want a world that's prosperous? Prosperous nations in cities and towns, you don't have to, it gives you less to worry about. Don't we want a world that has as little drug abuse as possible, as little poverty as possible, as little starvation as possible? We want a world in which everyone can benefit. But that only happens if we as Christians stand outside the system and say, "Hey, no, no, no. This is right. This is wrong," and we have to advocate for it. Stop waiting for the politician to save you. You have to get up there and do it. You, not someone pretty and that you can send. You got to do it. You have to. You have to uphold Moses' arms, or you have to be in the field fighting. But you got to do something. I'm going to sum up the prophetic aspect of this. Yes, I am standing with the prophets. Yes, they are absolutely right. I don't think, though, anyone said it was going to be easy or quick. What is happening now is an exposure of some deep evil. I think it was actually prophetic what Joe Biden said. He said there was going to be a winter of darkness. Maybe truer than he thinks. But my wife pointed out that when she heard him say that she thought that we would be entering the season of Hanukkah very soon, and we will. And Hanukkah actually falls during the period through which our electors are supposed to elect the president. What was Hanukkah? The Festival of Lights. Why? Because God sustained the Jewish rebels during that time. 8 days. They only had enough oil for one, but he sustained it for 8 days. Just like Joshua, he made the sun stop so they had light to win that battle. These are all connected. We have to uphold his arms, and we have to be in the battle. This fight does not stop here. This is not, oh, if Trump gets reelected, then everything's groovy. No, it's not. No, no. It just means that there's going to be other things we have to do. Look, if Joe Biden ends up taking the presidency, okay, you know what? Then everyone was wrong, including me, because I chose to side with him. But it doesn't end the fight. Trump wins, the fight's still on. No matter what happens, you got to get your armor on. This fight has to happen, and it has to happen every day, because as Christians, we are obligated to make this world a better place. We haven't been doing that. That's the problem. We haven't been doing it. We have to fight. We need cities that aren't corrupt. We need state governments that aren't corrupt. We need police forces that aren't corrupt. Of course, it'd be nice to have churches that aren't corrupt, but that's a different conversation. End result, we have to be in the world. We are gardeners. God called us. He created humanity to be gardeners in a garden. As Christians, we never lost that. That is still our role. Our garden just looks different than it did 4, 5, 6,000 years ago. I live in South Dallas. You may live in Kansas. You may live in the UK. Wherever your garden is where you should be. You should advocate for a better world. Not at the cost of the gospel at all, but to fulfill that role, the role of gardener. You have an obligation. You should fulfill that. So this fight isn't about voting once every 4 years. It's about every day asking, what does my job as the gardener require me to do today? To advocate for it, to educate for it, to make the stand when needed. If you're wondering how things got so bad, it's because people weren't standing. We just sort of assumed it would be okay. Well, it's not. I think the prophets are right. I think it's going to be a long haul. But regardless of how long this haul is, it's just the beginning of a much larger fight. And it's a fight to reclaim ground. Because I'm sick and tired of kids growing up in poverty. I'm sick and tired of corrupt legal systems and corrupt governments. I don't know about you, but I'm tired of it. I'm tired of corrupt everything. As Christians, our obligation is to bring the word. If you can't bring, because think about it, we're supposed to be kings and princes. The millennial kingdom, what are we supposed to be doing? Ruling things. If you can't handle today, you're not going to be able to handle tomorrow. This is about more than just whether or not Trump becomes president or not. That's a minor, secondary, tertiary issue at best. This is something more central. It's our role in our society as Christians, to whom much is given, much is expected. If you live in America, you have a lot. You have more than most people could have ever dreamed throughout the bulk of humanity. There's a lot expected of you. Go do it. I'll see you on Thursday.